So let's continue our discussion about building a database with the technical or nuts and bolts issues associated with building that specific database. So, what types of technical decisions do we need to make pertaining to building our database? That is, what are the technical issues that that we need to address and make decisions about when we go to build that database? Well, the first one is the format for the database. Now, in the good old days, and even to some degree today, there are two types of formats for building a database. One is called a sequential or hierarchical files database. Okay, this is a database that is built and looks like an Excel spreadsheet. It has lines of data, and so every purchase, for instance, is a line of data. It's usually tied to an order or a bill. The benefit of it is it's easy to store information, but producing reports from it is a bit of a nightmare. Updating can only be done in batches. You probably are not going to be able to find a record instantly, and duplicates are hard to find and deal with. So there are companies who use sequential or hierarchical files. This is sort of just, once again, every order is a line in an Excel file. The alternative to that are what's called relational databases. Relational databases are built with the idea of having a key or unique customer number that ties all of these records together. You can call up records quickly using this approach. There are multiple ways to access the data. You can update records quickly. You can create reports easily. And doing things like sophisticated stats are relatively easy. But relational databases take up a lot of space. That's the bad news. The good news is storage has become a commodity and is extremely inexpensive. So organizations like Switch no longer are selling the storage. They're trying to sell the security end of their business, not the storage end of their business. The software is complex and expensive. So for instance, especially if you outsource it to people like Oracle, the more information you add, the slower the response rates, and it is difficult to update in batch mode, although it does update instantaneously. One of the real problems with relational databases is that they are typically a little bit complicated to operate. It's not like having an Excel spreadsheet in front of you. But the new off-the-shelf canned programs are designed to make it more of a menu-driven approach than you having to understand exactly how the data is stuck together. So what kind of data are we going to have in our database? Well, the first thing we're going to have is identification data. That is perhaps a customer number or an ID number. Other things that we might have would be the individual's title, their name, their address, their phone number, their email address, and then maybe some segmentation variables. This is all identification data that we want on each individual customer at some point in time. Now, if you take a look at this information and think about an online merchant, the online merchant can identify an ID number. They know your name, they know your address, they know your phone number, then they know your email address. So from this perspective, an online merchant is 95% of the way home. A brick and mortar business, that might not be the case. Second, and what I consider to be one of the most critical aspects of all marketing databases, is purchase history. That is, what you have purchased, how often you purchase, how recently you have purchased, and how much money you have spent with us. So we're interested in purchase history from the perspective of recency, frequency, monetary value. We also want to know things like the source of your first order and your reaction to any of our promotional histories. So how often do you respond to a promotional email? How often do you order from the catalog, the hard copy catalog that we send you in the mail? Next, we probably want some demographic information. Age, income, gender, marital status, family size, and whether or not you rent or own your own residence. Now, this data is not that easy to be able to get from individuals, but it is relatively easy to get from data warehousers. And so we'll show you how to do that when we talk about appending data. Next are geographics. So these are things like your zip code, your census tract, and your block groups. We tend to add stuff like Prism data from Nielsen, and we'll show you that data at some point in time, which actually adds some geographic, demographic, and psychographics together and creates what we might refer to as segments of customers, or I would more likely want to use a term other than segments, but it is customer types or stereotypes of customers, that sort of thing. Psychographics. All right, so what kind of psychographic information do we want? Well, we might want AIOs, those are attitudes, interests, and opinions. We might want to do some sort of VALS indicators, that's values, attitudes, lifestyles. Or I might want to include attitude data, or that I maybe have collected from you individually by asking you to fill out a customer satisfaction survey of some type. So I may want to have psychographic data. Once again, this could be appended data, or it could be data that we're able to acquire by asking individual customers to fill out survey information for us. But if you think about this and you go back to purchase data, if I have purchase data, I know a lot about you as a customer. I know what you buy, when you buy, how often you buy, and what brands you prefer. Okay, some other things that are going to be important is designing custom reports. That is, we are typically going to want to have reports that are done on some sort of regular basis. So there are regular reports, and then there are customized what if ad hoc reports. And so both of those are going to be necessary, but we need to be thinking about how we're going to have all of that set up and how we're going to want to be that data to be reported to us and the reports to be designed so that they're going to be easy for us to read. We have something that we typically call the user access and the 5-second rule. And the idea behind the 5-second rule is that once I know who you are, that is, once I have trapped your ID number or your from some sort of a club card or membership card or whatever. Within 5 seconds of me being able to identify who you are, I should be able to have your database information up. We refer to it as the 5-second rule. Lots of times when you call someone and they're using some sort of a computerized telephone system, it will ring around 3 times. And the idea behind ringing 3 times is that the first ring is the time it is taking to identify who you are in their customer database, and then the other 2 rings gives them time for them to pull up the data on you so that when they answer the phone, the information on you as a customer is right in front of them. And then we have to worry about how we're going to relate the marketing database to other files. That is operational files, customer service files, and then the marketing database itself. We need to have a system of entering data and updating the files. So we need to have a method for exchanging information with our customers. Purchase history, family demographics, purchasing ability, occupations, leisure time, interests, hobbies, travel, sports, etc. Special requests, complaints, returns, refunds, and mistakes. So how do we do that? Well, in large part, at least in brick and mortar companies, that has to be done by frontline employees. Now, the benefit of an online company that strictly works online is that most of that data is collected automatically from the online information that is requested for each customer and each purchase. But for brick and mortar companies, this is where training and having diligent employees, frontline employees, really makes a huge difference. You need to be able to build a comprehensive service system in behind the database. And of course, this goes back to the idea of customer centricity, deciding who gets what kind of service. But someone has to be there to fulfill those promises. You got to decide who your customers are and who is going to provide them with the services that they need. And then you need to set up a team to manage your database effectively. So sometimes you need to change the organization's roles, attitudes, reward structures to take advantage of this new approach. And remember the famous Einstein quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. When you add a database, you have to change the way you do business. It is not simply a promotion. It is a business philosophy. And then, of course, we have to worry about the customer service reps and other users so that they understand how to use the database to provide the best service and the best service to the right customers.